All right. Looks like we're good to go. I tried to do this live stream the other day. Sorry for audio quality, echoing, or anything like that. I'm in a conference room at my customer site. Kind of had a little bit of time to kill because I have to return some stuff at Home Depot for them. So I wanted to take this time to review the Growbox project website, which is my first NodeJS web application. And some of the things that I had to go through, some of the functionalities of the site, and places I want to actually make improvements. What I want to do is get this here to about full screen. Yes, it's probably as good as it's going to get in terms of that. All right, okay, that's good enough. So I want to use up as much of the screen real estate as possible. So the Growbox project website, first we'll just refresh the page. You'll see a little loading screen. Again, what I do is I get templates from Template Monster and then chop them up however I like. With this, it was a little bit more in terms of putting it up as a GitHub project, as a private one, and then doing all my chop ups and adding in all the backend server code so I can actually have a working web server using Node.js Express as my routing and rendering system for web pages, and then for my templating system, handlebars. I did use it's my first time doing this, and I did use a how-to for it. If anything, I got to find and link that how-to and what I use, and a couple of how-tos that I use to actually get this working. Brad Traversy is a great resource. Academind is a great resource. Both of them they also actually do work on Udemy as well. The gentleman that runs Academind, or the team that runs Academind, I've been using some of their courses online. So I'm very pleased with the work that they've done and some of the things that they've put out in terms of just content, free content and paid content, where it's totally worth it, and to the point where it's like, hey, listen, you want to pay more for it almost. So I used a lot of the information that they gave me, and then also, quite a bit in terms of documentation, having to dig into certain places to get certain things done. But we'll refresh the site one more time here so I can go through a couple of things and my thoughts. So first, you see welcome to the Growbox project, and you have the shipping containers. And then the shipping containers basically, let me make sure I'm kind of staying close to the mic here. But the shipping containers symbolize the platform, or the core, or the focus of the platform, and where we actually want to use it, putting these systems into shipping containers, and then turning your shipping containers into full-on grow solutions and pretty much farms. But you can also expand on this and actually take an office building, an office, and a room or a corner in your house, and actually hook up a lot of these things, hook up a lot of these subsystems and put them together to say, all right, cool, I want to monitor and control my grow environment with this. Now, I won't lie, my system is not made for small grow operations. Like, the one you want in your corner, I may make like a Pico version of it, or a nano or a small version of this project where everything fits on one server, or even a Raspberry Pi, and it runs off of that, like a single Raspberry Pi. But that's not where I'm going to start. But it is something that I can easily do, where you can just cut a lot of that stuff down and then just tune the database and tune the entire solution to where it can actually handle all the data that's coming in. And then you could do things to limit some of that as well, where it's like, instead of the data constantly coming in, or change the frequency intervals and where data is coming in, things like that. But this project is mainly for larger buildings, or larger operations, grow operations, where I want to scale up to 10, 20 shipping containers. So I want to get to that point. And the biggest thing, and the slides are about to restart here. I just have them automatically going. So we're back at the beginning here of the slide sets, 5 different slides. And the next thing is, like, what will the future of farming look like? We want to be a part of what we feel that part that, or what we envision that farming is going to look like for human beings. I want this subsystem, I want these systems or this ecosystem and all its subsystems underneath it to be able to use and be able to be used in remote locations where you have to monitor and monitor your water usage, monitor the amount of light that's coming in and things like that. Making sure that, you get the best crop 100% of the time, keeping out things, eventually, getting more sensors like moisture sensors, light sensors, and other things into play instead of just your regular temperature sensors, and be like, all right, cool. We're having too much moisture. What do we have to do? And then the system starts to be automated. So that's kind of like what I envision there. And one cool thing about the website is any artwork that I use that's like from an artist that wasn't just like Googled, you can actually click on the artist link and it'll show it. This right here, the advantage of automation. So in the background, I got a GIF of a Node.js almost setup script, if you will. Uses Inquirer, which is an NPM package. So if you NPM Inquirer, that is going to be a setup script that we can use for all of the different projects. So for instance, the root, the stem, the branch, the the flower, and any other projects that we come out with in the future, you'll be able to actually start downloading these scripts, and with these download scripts, or with these setup scripts, ones that are not seed, with these setup survey questions, if you will, which is what the Inquirer package really does. It asks you a bunch of questions and then outputs your answers however you want. In this case, I output all the answers in a JSON format. So it'll ask things like, okay, what's the root server IP address? What is the username and password, API key? What are your mount points, for instance, if you want to have mount points that you actually want to look at in terms of having system statuses on the actual systems themselves. That's something that's available in the stem, where if you wanted to actually hook up a monitor to the stem box, it'll actually output all the information or status information to console or to the monitor there, or whatever you have hooked up to it. And that way you can actually view what's going on in that particular box. And it's something definitely I'm going to be integrating into all the platforms where possible. One thing I do have to worry about is the amount of writes to the disk, because it writes to dev TTY0, which I don't believe actually, and I have to do my research on it, it doesn't really write anything to the disk. It's a virtual pointer space, really. And all it does is that endpoint, that dev, or that sub device actually is what everything writes to for your screen, so you can actually see something. So when I output the script to that, it actually overwrites whatever is on the screen. So that was a pretty cool thing. I was just like, how can I have a status page of some sort? And then we'll go on to the next one here once it comes up. But trying to automate a lot of this stuff to make it a lot easier for you to set up. All right, and then open source to the core. So you have an open source system. The Raspberry Pi itself, I don't believe is totally open. Actually, it might be open source, but all the schematics and all the information on how to make little things for it, 3D print things for it, is out there, and it's well documented. So it's damn near open source, and you have so many different variants of these SBCs, single board computers, that are out there. So they really kind of started a bit of a revolution. I'm not sure if there weren't that many before. Arduino comes to mind, but I can't think of anything that was as powerful or as major as the Raspberry Pi and its release. And now they have the Raspberry Pi 4, which is quad core gigabit with USB, gigabit Ethernet with USB 3.0, and as well as, what else is there on there? USB 3.0 and Wi-Fi. So you still have Wi-Fi, AC Wi-Fi on there, which is major. Like that's a lot on a single board computer. So that's amazing. But then also the software that I'm writing, written in Node.js predominantly, um, with it is going to be completely open source. Anybody can use it. Anybody can put software out there for it, or fork it, or have like other plugins or anything else that can be created for it. And all the schematics on how to build everything are available as well. One thing I want to actually show you here, if we click on some of the links here, we'll go through some of the other links on the page and the rest of this page actually. But click on Almanac. So, I mean, it's just the documentation page. I just thought it was a funny name for it. But here in Almanac, so if you go to featured pages, you have your featured pages, but then we also have purchase lists. So if you want to do a purchase, you look at the purchase list for the STEM device, um, click on that, click. Okay, that's a click. With this, it shows the items that were purchased and the links for Amazon. And so it shows all the items that you would need to actually build it the way I actually have it designed. And if you want to build a water reservoir, these are the things that I had to build, making sure that, you have all the actual Amazon links, and then lighting, what I actually had to build. And then I also go into setup on actually how to connect a lot of these things. Also, we have a miscellaneous price list. Just want to make sure this is being seen. Yeah, it is perfect. Miscellaneous price list. So these are items that you're going to need to build the stem, but it's also items that you can use to build some of the other subsystems. And these are, I named them subsystems. Like seed is not a subsystem, but it's really a bash script that allows you, that primes the system after your initial install. And then root, stem, branch, and flower are going to be subsystems. And flower is going to be more of a virtual subsystem, because it's really just for visualization. So it's a web front end to it, or even Electron front end, and even eventually a Google app or an Android app front end, possibly iOS. I'm just going to need like a device to get started on that and testing. Excuse me. So, and that's one thing I want to get into, is start making the Android apps around all this using Flutter or anything else. So all the buttons, for instance, this is kind of overkill, but you get 15 of these darn buttons. But if you're building a lot of these systems, that might not even be enough. These terminal ends that I use to terminate a lot of the cables for the tower of power. Plexiglass, some of the pin outputs, so you can actually have these little pins that go into the terminal block of the Raspberry Pi. So you can make them yourselves. All the tools that I use to make all these things myself, all the extension cables, wire stripper. This is a godlike wire stripper. I love it. This bit right here, just to make the larger hole for some of the water gland, the I think it's like PG. I think I have a PG 29 water gland, and it's about 37 millimeters in diameter. So it's pretty big. And it could be, or maybe a PG 37 actually. I'm not exactly sure of the size anymore. But all the little miscellaneous parts that I needed to actually build this project out. Also under Almanac, if you go to Growbox Seed, this is the documentation page for the website itself. Jumping ahead a little bit, but essentially here you have all the instructions on how to run these programs, how to actually get the programs themselves, or scripts themselves, I should say, and then chmod to make it executable, and then go ahead and execute it based on the project you want. -I for install, and then -R for root, -S for stem, -B for branch, and -F for flower. And then you can actually put in manually enter a username and a password. And if you don't have both of them, it'll just automatically generate one for you. So essentially you can just like put in -I, -R, and then boom, it just does everything for you and then spits all that information out for you. So I try to make that a little bit easier as well. And there's a lot of information there that I'll go over probably even at a later date as I grow that portion. pun intended, but grow that portion of the documentation and the whole entire ecosystem that I'm trying to create out. So open source to the core, giving you all that information and putting it out there. And then the last slide, supply your area. Biggest thing is supplying your area with produce and getting more and more produce, or getting produce closer to the restaurants that will serve the people in your area. So what if you can start producing enough produce to supply all the subways in your area with fresh greens and other lettuce and other things, fresh peppers, tomatoes. I want the system to where it grows actual larger crops such as that. And then that would require maybe even an office building where it's like, all right, cool. I have this office building and now I want to actually turn this office building into a huge grow operation where I'm growing things on, say, a 5-story office building, and I'm growing things on every single floor except for the first. And that's where I have maybe operations and sales and things like that, and shipping and receiving, so all these things I want to be able to do, but that it comes in time. So we go down a little bit, and again, this is the Node.js app, and then all it does is just serves. It just serves everything via Express, which does all my routing as well, and then Handlebars, which does my templating. So all the stuff from my menu, my header and my footer and other things are all done through Handlebars. And then just every time you go to a certain route, like /about, /ecosystem, /growth, which is that's the about page, and then contact and so on and so forth. All that stuff is handled. And even the 404 page is also handled in there. This section goes over all the subsystems here. So you have your root, your stem, branch, and what they're all about in little blurbs. I try to be a little bit on the funny side, but I try to be a bit witty on some of it, but it goes over what they do. So your root is your API and taskmaster, stem, environmental control system, branch, sensor data collection, flower, data presentation. So from there, and I do like this template that I was able to get. It has it has a parallax feature, so you can see the background image actually moves, and then it makes the foreground image look like it's almost 3D, like it's moving as well, or it's actually staying in place, or it's probably moving, and then the background itself is staying in place, but it's actually the background that's moving. And then check us out on GitHub. So putting out the information on like getting straight to our source code. You don't have to go through a whole bunch to dig around, click, boom, GitHub opens up. TreeStar Systems, I split everything off. As far as software is concerned, I split that off into its own like GitHub repository. So I'm doing this, and I've taken a little bit of break from the Growbox stuff, and I'm working on other projects that are actually helping to make me better. So post-receive is one of those things, and I actually got to get back on it because I'm working on 1 or 2 other things that my cousin wants me to do for him. So trying to get him a website up and running, but getting all over the place, and I'm going to refocus here back in a couple of weeks once my brain has relaxed enough and I can refocus on, this project and the daunting task that it represents. So let's go back to the website here. So driving open source agricultural technology. So essentially, I want to do things that's going to make this entire space grow and get bigger, and do things that will bring more attention to it and to people that are doing things in this space, that have been doing it for a long period of time, but also make it to where regular users, home users, people that aren't really into farming, but they want some type of solution where they can watch their entire operation from home, from work or anywhere else that they are, and actually have it as a secondary income, supplemental income, if you will. So here it only shows for stem, but eventually root, branch, flower, and any other projects that we come up with will actually have some photos. So again, this is my first Node.js app, but it works like a regular web page. There's really nothing crazy or, oh my gosh, this is something wow factor in terms of what has been done here. But I will get into that a little bit later. Probably another time I'll probably review some of the code on this, or just do a general code review that'll have some of the elements that I've used on this page here. But a lot of this stuff came with the template. All I did is just break it up and, make it work in a Node.js application, a Node.js framework, if you will. Here, and this is one of the things that's pretty nice. And a lot of this stuff you can do in jQuery, so don't get it twisted. You can do a lot of this in jQuery, Vue.js, Angular, React, whatever you want. But one thing I do like is that I used quite a bit of, actually this is all jQuery, but I used quite a bit in terms of like making the site not just functional, but actually every time you refresh the page, there's something else that happens. So for instance, here, there's a lot of work that was done even in this just contact application using the Node Mailer project, which is another NPM NPM package that you can actually easily get. So with NPM or with this or with Node Mailer, you can actually just use this as a contact form, and I can get all my emails through here. I can get emails from the web page through here. One thing that's nice is, for instance, if I try and press send, here we go. Haha, missing something. Funny picture, flicks you off. Solo Rick and Morty joke, because I like that website, or that I like that cartoon. So and then phone. There's a little bit more in terms of validation that needs to be done here. Right, and then so then, for instance, here, if I choose send, yeah, full send. It's already sent it. It's already processed it. I just let this thing run for about 5 seconds because it's cool, and then boom, burp. Thank you, A. ... You can leave. So what's cool about that? Again, this is mostly jQuery and a little bit in terms of Express and I think it's mostly jQuery. There's a couple things in terms of Express and is it Axios? I have to look at the code again. But for instance, I'm just getting the information from this field, and then I choose send. And again, this is working right now, so it's sending me an email. So thank you, Michael. You can leave. So having something like that, which is a really nice thing. Again, it's just a basic website, but it's Node.js as the background. And again, one thing that I like that I did is that I have different pictures that I really like in terms that has a nature theme to it. And then if you click here, this is just it's an array of JSON objects, and it randomly goes through the array and picks the JSON object. And then it also picks, it says, hey, this is the file name. And then this is the artist associated with that file. So every time you go to a new picture, so this artist is going to be different than, of course, this Sylvain guy, or Sylvain, and Julian Caille. So, like, these are some of the cool photos that they have on ArtStation, and I wanted to give credit to a lot of these artists. And then I can program that in and make it automated to where I can just add, or a bit automated, but making it easier so I can add more pictures as I go along. What I want to go over here next is ecosystem. So again, using the same style, artists at the top, but in the ecosystem area, I'm going to start adding more stuff in terms of other projects, so affiliates. I've mentioned this in the last video I just posted before this one. And in that last video, I talked about the daunting task of starting 3 companies within the next 5 years, which is my goal. So first project or first company is the Growbox project and all the stuff around it, starting doing more coding and other things like that. And then the next after that is is Black Seed Farms. And that's really just using the Growbox project and what it represents and what it can do, and then actually starting to do farming. The Growbox project, essentially what it is just going to be a software company, and we're going to sell service and support for the software. The software itself is free, so you can do it all yourself. But if you ever need any service and support on it, or any bug fixes or anything like that, or custom code, then you can just reach out to us, and then we can go ahead and go from there. And then Black Seed Farms is actually going to be selling the produce that the Growbox project has helped to make and cultivate and so on and so forth from there. Third is contained growth, and contained growth is going to be the company that's going to deal with the shipping containers and retrofitting those, or specializing in getting those ready for actual use. So pretty much almost along the lines of what you would see on this is something that Ulysses Complex Design showed me years ago, and is a part of my inspiration. And it's on the old documentation page as well. But Micro Lab Farms. So Micro Lab Farms, what they do is they have different grow labs, and they have pretty much, they're just containers, or shipping containers, and the shipping containers allow you can grow. Well, their crop is weed. That's not going to be my crop. It's not what I want to get into. But again, it's one of those things where it's available. If you wanted to do that, we can customize it to where it's like, all right, cool, that's what you want to do, no problem. These are, maybe even get something where it's like you have a grow profile of what you're trying to grow, what levels of how often you want to irrigate, and how often you want to light the space. What is your needs in terms of ventilation? What are the things that we have to watch out in terms of your moisture content or your soil moisture, and anything else that would actually affect the environment and then therefore affect your crop. So Turnkey Systems, they have another. But essentially, as you can see here, this is a shipping container. It's probably about like a 40, it's probably like a 40 foot for what they have. But you see all the HVAC systems here at the top, the fans. If there's anybody in the chat that's talking, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it. I'm just running through this. So I'll answer some of the questions that maybe I'll see on the chat if anybody's actually in there. So, but this is essentially is somewhat what we want to do, but we want to be a little bit more versatile and say, hey, you can put it in a shipping container, you can put it in a room in your house, you can put it in your garage, you can build something if you want. It doesn't matter. All we're going to do is create a platform that will collect the data, that will help to automate and then monitor your actual growing operation. So that's one thing. So here, let's see, make sure that perfect. All right, so Growback Seed, it goes into a little bit about each one of these subsystem projects. Again, this is a virtual subsystem project, so it really is just a script, the documentation for it, and the repo for that seed project. And then it goes down and it says the same thing about the root, the stem, branch, and flower don't have anything because branch is where I started on this whole journey, but it is something that I am going to come back to eventually. I gotta fix this. It's kind of weird. It just has to deal with the size of all the elements on here, so because I've cut down things quite a bit. But I'm gonna fix it. And flower the same way. It's more of a visualization platform. As you can see, it doesn't do it anymore. But that's more or less CSS is where I had to fix that. Growbox project. So this is part of the Growbox project ecosystem. Again, refresh the page. Get a different picture at the top, different artist, and then growth. This one's pretty nice. So I have a GIF of just something growing, which is really nice. And I think I cut that a little bit, or I converted it to a WebP format so that I can somewhat optimize this whole page. One thing that I ran into with Node.js and serving static files, you see that if you proxy a lot of this stuff through Nginx, Nginx will do a lot better in terms of actually compressing the files themselves and then transporting them. And then overall, if you have decent bandwidth, but overall you're going to look at a faster response time in terms of your page being your page answering and then loading, and then drawing all the elements or rendering, and then going towards completion, and then doing anything else that you need on the background. So, a little blurb at the top. What are we about? Growth, ... your growth, like we're really about your growth and you're growing your operation. And that's kind of what I want to get across to people. And, a little blurb about myself, and then meet our team. I am the team. I'm the only one working on it. So that's kind of one of the things that I hope to grow later on. And that this comes back to the last video that I posted where it was talking about delegation and, letting go of some of your responsibilities so that you can actually grow in other areas. Pun intended again. Again, one of the things that I did on this one is when you refresh the page, you get different pictures. The smaller amount of pictures that you actually have, the less or the higher, of course, the higher chances of you seeing the same picture over and over again and it not being a cache issue. I've also noticed where it might only cache a couple of the photos or it might cache some of the photos and then it keeps showing them no matter how many times you refresh. But this is another thing where it's like, it is what it is. I'm not going to dwell on it because I have to move towards other things. And the website actually looks very nice. I really do like it. So, and then of course the link for the artist, which I'm very proud of that. Again, the contact us is it just goes back to the home page and then goes to the contact section here again, which now has another picture on it. But that's kind of the basic, that's the basis of the website itself and what I've been doing to get this whole project off the ground in terms of, coming from behind the shadows or coming out of the lab with something and just saying, hey, listen, here's what I got. Do you like it? So if we look at this is the STEM unit, the GrowBox STEM unit, and with it, I've done quite a bit. A lot of people have been amazed with what I've done so far. And I'm like, well, I just put quite a few things in a box. Now I have to start making it work and work the way I want. And this gets into what I've done with my development rack. And I'm going to post another video about that because I just added some stuff to it. And I will be doing more with that development rack, setting up a storage server and setting up another device in there so that I can actually do more monitoring and actually expand what this whole ecosystem, if you will do, adding ubiquity, wireless access points, and adding that to the whole entire project and increasing its versatility in terms of, or increasing its feature set and versatility. So adding wireless functionality and adding all that to the root server, and then adding also scripts in time to where if I wanted to restart a PoE based device that is connected to one of the Cisco switches that I have, I was able to purchase two Cisco switches recently. eBay. And then does it have some of my stuff on here? No, it doesn't look like it does. No, it might not even have my account. Spelled that wrong. So looking for a Cisco 8-port PoE switch. In this case, I have a 3560 and I also have a 2960G. And the 2960, yeah, this one here. This one does not have PoE, but it I do have the model where it actually has a fiber optic port on it, and that gives me gigabit. This one has a fiber optic uplink port on it as well. What I like about this unit, and again, this goes into R&D and what I'm trying to do to develop an entire solution to where it's like, oh, okay, for networking, you use this, for this, you use this. And I've made scripts and I've made web interfaces for all these things. In time, I should say. But at the end of all of this, I want to say, hey, I've made web interfaces and I've made scripts and other things that says, oh, okay, if you want to do this, then if you want to control, for instance, turn off one of these ports, which will subsequently turn off the device that it's connected to or powered through it, if it is actually powered through via PoE, which I want all these things to be powered via PoE, that allows for a little bit more controllability or control, I should say. But I want to be able to say, all right, shut off port 1 on switch 1 and everything be mapped. And then you log into said switch, it shuts off said port And then by doing the shutdown command on Cisco, and then and it does all this via SSH, and you can do this using C login or anything else. And I would probably try and do all this stuff in Node.js as best as possible. But do the shutdown command on the port, which will actually turn off the power, and then do a no shut on that same port, which will turn the power back on. So essentially what I've done is I've shut the port off to turn the device off, and then I've actually restarted it by doing the no shut command. So I want to be able to actually have that. And then at the core of this, this unit it gives you 7 gigabit ports, 3, 6. Oh no, this one has 8 on it, which is kind of cool. Oh, that has a PoE input. That one's cool, but that's not the unit I got. The unit I have actually has 7 1 gigabit ports, and then another single gigabit port that's a tandem port that allows either Cat5e or multi-mode fiber via SFP LC connector, SFP using an LC connector. And so this would act as the core. So port 1 would go to my, in this case, I just have one of these laying around, but I have, and it's for some people, they definitely don't have this, but I have a Cisco ASA 5506X. So ASA 5506X. And this unit, as you can see, it's pretty expensive, but I get these things all the time, and it's like, oh, this one looks a little bit not beat up, but if it works, great. But this one on the back of it has gigabit ports, I believe. It should all be gigabit. But port 1 is where the internet comes in. 2 goes out to my gigabit switch that connects my root device or my root server, whatever that may be for you, or in the ecosystem, and then also connects the storage server or anything else that needs high-speed connectivity to your actual network, so that it can actually provide enough bandwidth for all the systems that are connecting and reading and writing to it, reading from it and writing to it. So. And these are the things that I'm going to go in a little bit more on the development rack. I'll probably do a video later on today once I get home. I got a couple things that I have to get done here now that it's 6:42. So pretty much going to close this up, but I'll get more into the development rack and show you guys a little bit more about that. And then what I'm doing to integrate all of this into this entire GrowBox ecosystem. And by doing this, I'm hoping that I can have a system product that would or platform really that would really help people grow from a small to or medium-sized operation. I cannot lie, this is not going to be for small operations, to a larger operation in time. And then you can add things as you go along. You can add branches, you can add stems, and then extend them from there. But pretty much that's it. For all those who are watching or will watch on the playback, thank you very much for listening, and appreciate you so much. As always, thank you.